pure power. Grace that defies the tons of steel and iron in its frame. A sound that demands respect and brings out fond memories. It's a great symbol for America, loud and powerful, getting the job done. Just plain big. No other steam locomotive in the world is bigger and still underpowered. This is the Challenger, engine number 3985, gliding along the rails of the Union Pacific. Stick around and hear from the people who keep her going and know her past. They tell quite a story. But then the Challenger, well, she can speak for herself.
We don't know how long we'll be here. We should be here forever, but we may not be. So let's make the best we possibly can of it.
This trip so special is the locomotive. That's the beating heart of any train. At the head end of this train is a one-of-a-kind steam-powered marvel called the Challenger. The railroad that runs her, the Union Pacific, only takes her out for special occasions.
Well, have you seen it? It's great. It's, you know, it's all noise and smoke and grease and it's huge. I mean, you know, it's from the days when if you wanted to go faster, you made it bigger. That's how it worked. It's the only one like it in the world, and so it's worth taking a look at. 3 years ago, I got to ride in the cab, and it is like the thing's alive. The floor moves, and you know, you can almost hear it breathing.
The ride delights fans of rail travel, as well as those for whom the era ended too soon. The best view of a steam locomotive is not on board, it's along the tracks. A single-file parade of train nuts turned the route to Cheyenne into a high-speed contest to pace the locomotive.
I think the most interesting thing is to watch people along the right-of-way. I mean, it attracts thousands of people who come to crossings to wave, and, you know, just watch the thing go by. And it always amazes me that people are so fascinated by this that they'll come out and stand there for an hour or hour and a half just for 30 seconds of it going by. It also has grace. When you see it running at 70 miles an hour, you can't believe that it weighs 1 million pounds, because it looks like it glides down the rail so effortlessly that you don't think of all the power it takes to move not only the locomotive, but the 17 or so cars that we have on the train. And I think that's why people say it's pretty and the lines are great, but I think also because it looks a lot lighter than it really is when it runs.
The trip to Cheyenne only lasts a couple of hours, but the clock, even the calendar, seem to roll back for everyone chasing the train, lining the tracks, riding the rails. It's here in the Union Pacific rail yards that the Challenger makes its home. The tangle of tracks have a history that runs side by side with the locomotives. Regular passenger service ended decades ago for the UP. The need for power shaped the machinery needed by the railroads. In the mid-1800s, crews with hammer and spike laid the tracks across the American West through mountain passes and over steep grades like Sherman Hill outside of Cheyenne. To make the climb, railroads needed two things from their engines: power to carry more cargo and speed to get it there on time.
As the state of the art.
When the Challenger rolls into place for maintenance, the steam team faces a million-pound puzzle. You cannot just call a supplier and get parts for a 60-year-old steam locomotive. There's no toll-free customer service phone line to help the maintenance crew troubleshoot a problem. They consult ragged, dusty blueprints, call up an old-timer, or just use good luck and brain power. The Union Pacific Steam program seems to have a knack for collecting the unique sort of person needed to keep a steam train in perfect working order.
The Union Pacific's always been considered a heavy traffic, high-speed railroad. So the Challenger really fit in well there because it could run trains, heavy trains, at fast speeds.
Union Pacific ordered up over 100 Challenger-class locomotives from the American Locomotive Company in Schenectady, New York. Number 3985 was delivered in 1943, built for hauling freight from North Platte, Nebraska, as far west as Utah.
That's a lot of power and takes a lot of steam. I know we used to run the 3985 just down to Sydney, and on a 25,000 gallon tank, we'd use 12,000 gallons of water.
Bill Cratville watched Union Pacific grow up through the lens of his camera as one of the railroad's official photographers. He captured the boomtown feel of the railroad from Iowa to California, the length of the Union Pacific line in the 1930s and 40s.
Pardon me, boy, pardon me, boy. Boo-bop, 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 boo-bop.
In the steam days, you had lots of trains. I mean, one literally every half hour. In the rush season, one every 15 to 30 minutes would be leaving Council Bluffs, going west.
You take a Cheyenne in their heyday, we had about 414 machinists, about 250 machinist helpers. They had 250 Boilermakers and 200 Boilermaker helpers, had 60 electricians, 80 pipe fitters, 40 pipe fitter helpers, plus they had about a dozen cranemen that run the crane.
Very hot in the summer, very cold in the winter, dusty, dirty, smelly, greasy. They did boiler work in here. You have several engines in here under steam. You'd have the air pumps going, stokers going. You'd have people banging on things and working on things, cranes running around, stuff like that. It had to be a horrendous racket the whole time.
Very few that I ever saw didn't love railroading. Once they got into it, it gets in your blood because you're moving, you're going somewhere.
It's time to take 3985 out on the road. She'll head east along the same route that brought the railroad to the Wild West. The Challenger is bound for Omaha, the headquarters and historic home of the Union Pacific Railroad.
He was born to the taste of the cinders and smoke and the whistle that wailed from the north. And he worked his way up through the mills and the mines like his father's father before. And the great locomotive from yesterday's dream was the bond that they shared till the end. The Nebraska-bound Challenger finds her way home again. The Nebraska-bound Challenger finds her way home again.
As good as these train crews are, there's always a question about getting an aging steam engine started. You don't just crank up the ignition. It took a couple of days to bring a cold boiler up to the full head of steam she'll have today. It may be decades later, but these boilers can still be a dangerous beast. All that power comes from scalding steam under extreme pressure.
They always say you have to watch your boiler, you know, with your water, so you don't run out of water, you know. There was a 9000 in the Kansas division one time that blew up. They had evidently lost water and it blew the boiler clear off the wheels. And they had that picture in the back of all these steam engines. And they had in there, always watch your water.
Usually we don't have any trouble on the trips because we really work hard in the wintertime getting our maintenance, getting everything in tip-top shape.